My dear brothers and sisters, have you ever reached a season in your life where, without warning, everything seems to shift? People you once shared deep bonds with begin to drift away. Relationships you thought were unshakable suddenly feel fragile, or even fade completely. The habits and routines that once brought comfort now feel burdensome, empty, or even harmful. Even your surroundings feel different, as though life is quietly, gently steering you toward a new direction. In these moments, it's natural to feel unsettled, even lost. You might sit alone and ask yourself, what's happening? Why is everything changing? Why does it feel like parts of my life are slipping away? At first glance, it can look as though everything is falling apart, as if you're being punished or forgotten. But pause for a moment. What if you're not losing, but transforming? What if those uncomfortable shifts aren't signs of failure, but signs that Allah is reshaping you for something greater? When we ask Allah for guidance, strength, peace, or success, He doesn't simply hand us the result. Instead, He begins a process, and that process often involves clearing away what no longer serves your soul, removing the hidden weights holding you back from becoming who you're meant to be. Change is rarely comfortable. We grow attached to the familiar even when it's harmful. We cling to people, routines, and ways of thinking that may not align with who we're becoming. So when those things begin to fade, it can feel like we're breaking. But you're not being broken down, you're being rebuilt by the very one who created you. This is not chaos. It's not bad luck. It's not rejection. It is divine redirection. And the sooner you view these moments through that lens, the sooner peace will enter your heart. You'll stop resisting the changes and start embracing them as signs that Allah is at work in your life, even when you cannot yet see the full picture. Remember, when Allah removes something from your life, it is never random. It is part of a greater plan to refine you into someone better. Often, when we raise our hands in dua asking for guidance, strength, purification, or closeness to Him, we expect blessings to arrive in forms we can instantly recognize: ease, joy, clarity. But true growth rarely happens inside comfort zones. Sometimes the answer to your dua comes through discomfort. A friend who used to call every day grows distant. Conversations you once enjoyed lose their spark. Desires that once pulled you toward sin begin to loosen their grip. Do you start feeling uneasy with the person you used to be, yet unsure of who you are becoming? This is Allah's work. He knows what you cannot see. Sometimes He gives by adding, but often He gives by taking away. What feels like loss may, in truth, be the removal of a barrier standing between you and your next stage of growth. It could be a distraction, a danger to your faith, or a hidden threat to your heart. Allah's love is not only shown in what He gives, but also in what He protects you from. That relationship you prayed to keep. Maybe it was quietly pulling you away from your values, your akira. That habit you once enjoyed. Maybe it was slowly dimming the light in your heart. That environment you loved. Maybe it no longer reflects the person Allah is shaping you to be. When Allah removes, it is never to harm you, but to heal you. Not to abandon you, but to bring you closer to Him. Purer, stronger, and more sincere. So, when you see parts of your life slipping away, don't rush to despair. Instead, ask, could this be the answer to a dua I made long ago? Perhaps you once asked Allah to protect you, to guide you, to cleanse your heart. This discomfort is not destruction, it is transformation. You are shedding an old skin, leaving behind a version of yourself that can no longer walk the path Allah has prepared for you. Yes, the process can feel heavy, but it is the weight of growth, not the weight of loss. Yes, this journey can feel lonely at times, but there is light at the end of it. That light is closeness to your Creator, inner peace, and a renewed sense of purpose. Think back for a moment to the things you once believed you couldn't live without. Certain friendships, daily routines, even sinful habits that seemed part of your identity. At one time, those things were so deeply woven into your life that a future without them felt impossible. Yet here you are, having outgrown them. In some cases, Allah removed them from your path without you even realizing why. Only later, looking back, do you see the quiet wisdom of His work, the way He gently shapes our lives without fanfare. Allah knows that the version of you who once tolerated certain things cannot carry them into the next chapter of your life. The person He is guiding toward closeness with Him cannot walk that path weighed down by what no longer serves your soul. This change doesn't always arrive in dramatic ways. Sometimes it's subtle. Do you wake up and realize the company you once enjoyed no longer brings you peace? The jokes you used to laugh at now feel hollow. Are the places where you once felt comfortable now seem foreign? Are the conversations, music, and lifestyles you once embraced no longer feel aligned with your heart? This isn't arrogance or pride. It's growth. It's your fitra, the natural purity Allah placed in you, rising again. He is cleansing your heart of things you didn't even know were harming you. With every attachment He removes, with every door He closes, He is quietly turning your heart back toward Him. Sometimes that redirection feels lonely, but understand, loneliness in the company of Allah is far more healing than comfort in the presence of what harms you. Consider the friend you thought would always be in your life, yet communication suddenly faded. You felt hurt, maybe even betrayed, but later you realized that this person was pulling you away from your deen, encouraging harmful habits, or feeding your mind with negativity. That separation wasn't random, it was necessary. Think, too, of the job that slipped through your fingers or the business that failed. At the time, disappointment may have crushed you, but that loss pushed you to reassess your priorities, to raise your hands in dua, and perhaps even led you towards something more meaningful, something that aligned with your values and your akira. This is the divine pattern many of us overlook when we're consumed by the pain of loss. Allah never removes without reason. He never takes away merely to leave you empty. There is always a replacement, and often the greater gift is not something external but something within you. Sometimes the new gift is a heart that is softer, dua that flows with more sincerity, and a dependence on Allah that feels unshakable. That in itself is priceless, because when you taste the sweetness of relying on Allah, you realize that what you lost was never truly yours, and what you gained is far more lasting. This is why we must learn to see change not through fear or frustration, but through trust. Trust in Allah's mercy, trust in His plan, and trust that what is removed is meant to protect and build you, not to break you. Yes, we may not immediately see the wisdom. The real test lies not in the removal itself, but in how we respond to it. Will we resent Allah for taking something we thought we needed? Or will we pause, reflect, and say, perhaps this is the answer to a dua I made. Perhaps Allah is guiding me quietly, gently, but firmly towards something better. This level of spiritual maturity is a journey. But the more you train your heart to see Allah's hand in every change, the more peace you will find. You stop fighting life's shifts and begin to flow with them, knowing that if Allah removes, it is never a loss. It is a replacement. And sometimes, that replacement isn't a new friend, a new job, or a new opportunity. Sometimes it's something deeper: patience, resilience, gratitude, and a heart more connected to your Salah. These are treasures the dunya cannot match. So instead of asking, why is everything falling apart? Ask yourself, who am I becoming through this? Because in that question lies the true gift of transformation. If the person you are becoming is more mindful of Allah, more rooted in faith, and more devoted to Quran, dua, and tawbah, then you have not lost. You have transformed. And in the sight of Allah, that transformation is worth far more than the fleeting comfort of holding on to people, habits, or plans that were never meant to stay. Too often, we anchor ourselves too deeply to the dunya. We tie our sense of worth and stability to relationships, routines, careers, and lifestyles. So when one of those things is removed, it can feel as though our very identity is collapsing. But that, in itself, is a mercy. If your peace rests on something fragile, that peace will always be at risk. Allah, out of His compassion, wants your peace to come from Him, the one who never leaves, never changes, and always knows what is best for you, even when you cannot see it. Part of transformation is correcting what your heart leans on. If you lean too heavily on a person, Allah may remove them. If your trust was in a source of income, He may change it. If your confidence rested on your own plans, He may disrupt them, so you turn back to Him. These are not punishments. They are invitations. invitations to place your hope and fear in Allah alone. And when you reach that point, when your stability is rooted in faith, your happiness no longer rises and falls with life's ups and downs. You become free. Free from the chains of the past, free from the opinions of people, free from fear of the future. You trust the one who holds your future. That is true liberation. That is the moment when your soul finds peace even in uncertainty, and when you realize that every removal was not a loss, but a return to your fitra, your essence, and ultimately to Allah. So if you are in a season of being stripped of what you once held close, know this: you are not being punished, you are being purified. Allah is not breaking you, He is rebuilding you. He is answering your du'as not only by granting what you seek, but by shaping you into someone who can receive it with gratitude, use it for good, and appreciate it fully. Sometimes the greatest gift is not what He gives you, but who He allows you to become through the trial. But embracing this transformation takes patience, trust, and real faith, the kind that holds on to Allah even when nothing makes sense. There will be days when you feel lost, when your heart aches with confusion, when it seems the harder you try to improve, the more you lose. That is when Shaitan whispers, "You were better off before, at least you weren't lonely, at least life was easier." But don't be deceived. That path is no longer yours. The old you was attached to comfort, not clarity, driven by desire, not discipline. It may have looked fine on the outside, but inside there was emptiness. Out of mercy, Allah is rebuilding you from within, slowly, quietly, with precision. You may not see it yet, but you are being prepared for something far better than what you are clinging to. There is wisdom in every person who no longer walks beside you, in every place your heart has outgrown, in every attachment your soul can no longer tolerate. Sometimes Allah must remove pieces of you, versions built on pain, pride, or the desire to please people, before His light can fully enter your heart. That is why surrender is essential. Stop asking Allah to restore what He is trying to remove. Instead, ask Him for patience, for understanding, and for the strength to walk this path with dignity and trust. You will never find peace in holding on to what Allah has already written to end. And you will never meet the new you He is shaping if you keep rebuilding what He has already dismantled for your own good. Real transformation changes more than your habits. It reshapes your heart. It humbles your ego, softens your arrogance, and reminds you that without Allah's help, you are nothing. When you accept this truth, not just with your tongue but with your soul, you enter a profound state of peace. One that is not dependent on circumstances, but on submission to Him. And that, my brothers and sisters, is the most powerful place you can be. So ask yourself, who am I becoming through this? Because in the end, that is what truly matters. Life is not defined by how much you gather, how many people you impress, or how perfectly your plans unfold. It is defined by how close you draw to Allah, how pure your heart becomes, how sincere your intentions are, and how well you prepare for the hereafter. If the loss you endured brought you to your knees in sujud, it wasn't loss, it was a gift. If heartbreak led you to whisper sincere du'as for the first time in months, it wasn't harm, it was healing. And if Allah removed something from your life only for you to return to Him with more humility, devotion, and reliance, then what you gained is infinitely more valuable than what you lost. This is spiritual maturity. The ability to see beyond the moment, beyond the pain, and into the mercy behind the trial. It's recognizing that Allah may empty your hands to fill them with something better, close one door so you will finally knock on His, and dismantle what you built your life around so you remember who truly holds it together. Understanding this doesn't erase the pain, but it gives the pain purpose. Once you realize that your trials are steps towards spiritual elevation, you see them as signs of Allah's love, not His anger. The Prophet said, "When Allah loves a servant, He tests them, not to break, not to humiliate, but to raise them, polish their heart, and bring them closer." So don't let hardship make you bitter. Let it make you better. Don't let the absence of people convince you you're abandoned. Let it remind you that Allah has never left you. Don't measure your worth by what has been taken, but by how much closer you've come to your Creator because of it. This is the beauty of our faith. In loss, there is gain. In pain, there is purification. In confusion, there is divine planning. And when Allah is the one guiding your transformation, the new you that emerges is stronger, wiser, purer in heart, and richer in iman. That's why we must learn to see our lives through the lens of tawakkul, unshakable trust in Allah. With that trust, even your hardest days begin to make sense. You stop chasing what has left, stop clinging to what Allah is removing, stop begging for doors that were closed out of mercy. You walk forward not with every answer, but with a heart that knows His wisdom is greater than your understanding. And then, even in life's quiet seasons where nothing seems to be happening, you feel purpose. Because while the world sees silence, Allah is working, aligning what must align, healing what you didn't even know was broken, removing people, desires, and parts of your ego that no longer serve your soul. In that silence, He is planting seeds for your next chapter, one filled with more clarity, more strength, and more barakah than what you left behind. Never underestimate what Allah is doing behind the scenes. The lack of instant relief doesn't mean He isn't answering. Not seeing the full picture doesn't mean it's not already unfolding. The removal is part of the answer. The loss is part of the redirection. The discomfort is part of the purification. And the change you resist may be the very thing that brings you the peace you've been asking for all along. So keep going, keep praying, keep trusting. When Allah replaces the old you, it's not because you weren't enough. It's because He knows what you are capable of becoming. He knows there is more in you. More light, more sincerity, more good. He is not abandoning you, He is investing in you. Be patient with yourself while He completes His work. You are under construction, not because you are broken, but because you are being rebuilt by the most merciful in ways more beautiful than you imagine. And remember, transformation is not meant to happen overnight. Just as a seed doesn't become a tree in a day, your spiritual growth takes time. Old habits, harmful attachments, toxic mindsets, they fall away in stages. And that's okay. What matters is that you're moving toward Allah, even if slowly. Perfection is not what He asks of you. You will stumble and you will fall, but He asks that you return. And sometimes, the very reason He removes something from your life is to guide you back to that return. Sometimes Allah creates space within you, not just in your schedule or surroundings, but deep in your heart, so that something better can take root. That better might be tranquility in your worship, sincerity in your intentions, or the courage to make choices that align with your values instead of your temptations. As you begin to walk away from the old version of yourself, the one who lived to please people, relied too heavily on their own plans, or felt distant from Allah, you'll notice something beautiful happening. Life feels lighter. Your mind becomes clearer. You can finally breathe again. Not because the world around you is perfect, but because you're no longer carrying what was never meant for you. You've stopped fighting against the wisdom of Allah's plan, and you're learning slowly but surely to submit not just in prayer but in perspective. And that submission is what brings true peace. It's in those quiet moments, walking alone, sitting after far, or crying in sujud, that you'll realize, I needed this change. I had been asking for a new life without realizing it would require letting go of the old one first. Once you understand this, everything starts to feel purposeful again. The emptiness becomes space. The silence becomes peace. The separation becomes clarity. You are not who you were, and that's not something to mourn. It's something to be deeply grateful for. When you truly see that the change you feared was actually a gift from Allah, you move from resistance to gratitude. Gratitude not just for the good things in life, but for the things that didn't work out, for the friendships that ended, the doors that closed, the tests that shook you, the moments you had to face yourself in the rawest, most unfiltered way. Without those moments, you might have stayed where you were, comfortable but spiritually stagnant. Allah loved you too much to leave you there, so He opened your eyes. He shook your world just enough for you to pause, reflect, and turn back to Him. That's not punishment, it's protection. It's divine love. It's Allah saving you from what you couldn't see. It takes a heart connected to Allah to recognize that kind of mercy, where even hardship becomes a doorway to hope. You see, Allah is not changing you for the sake of change. He is refining you, reclaiming you, reintroducing you to the version of yourself He always intended. Grounded, sincere, patient, grateful, and guided. A version defined not by who you lost or where you failed, but by how often you returned to Allah when life became difficult. A version that no longer lives for the approval of people, but for the pleasure of the Creator. A version that wakes each day knowing your worth lies not in how the world sees you, but in how close you are to the one who made you. That's why you must not give up now. Don't measure your progress by how far you still have to go. Measure it by how far you've already come. If you're praying again after drifting, thank Allah. If you're letting go of sins you once thought you couldn't live without, thank Allah. If your tears have turned into du'as instead of complaints, thank Allah. This is not weakness. This is spiritual strength. This is growth. This is transformation. But you must be gentle with yourself along the way. Don't shame yourself for how long you were lost. Don't dwell endlessly on who you used to be. That was a chapter, not your whole story. The past may have shaped you, but it does not define your destiny. Allah does. As long as you are breathing, there is time to return, time to rebuild, time to become who you were always meant to be. Don't wait until you feel perfect to move forward. Don't say, I'll change once life is easier, or I'll get religious when I figure things out. The journey back to Allah doesn't start with perfection. It starts with sincerity. It begins with one honest moment between you and your Creator. Ya Allah, I've made mistakes. I've fallen. I've lost my way. But I want to return. I want to grow. I want to become who you created me to be. If that moment is sincere, it is more beloved to Allah than a lifetime of outward deeds without the heart. He does not expect you to have it all together, only to keep turning back no matter how many times you've failed. And this is one of the most beautiful truths of our faith. No matter how far you've gone, you are never beyond Allah's mercy. You are never too broken for Him to repair, never too lost for Him to guide. The very fact that you feel the pull toward change is proof that Allah is still calling you, that He hasn't let go of you, that He wants goodness for you. The Prophet told us that Allah is more pleased with the return of His servant than a man who finds his lost camel in the desert. Can you imagine that kind of joy? Have you ever reached a point where life starts to shift without warning? People you were once close to drift away. Relationships that once felt strong fade or fall apart. Habits and routines that once brought comfort now feel heavy or even harmful. The spaces you're familiar with suddenly seem foreign, as if life itself is quietly urging you toward a new path. In those moments, confusion is natural. You might wonder, why is this happening? Why does it feel like I'm losing pieces of my life? At first, it may seem like everything is falling apart, as though you're being punished or forgotten. But pause for a moment. What if you're not losing, but being reshaped? What if this is not failure, but transformation? When we ask Allah for guidance, strength, peace, or success, He rarely gives it to us instantly. Instead, He begins a process, a preparation. And part of that process involves removing what no longer serves your soul, what silently holds you back, or what keeps you from becoming who you are meant to be. Change is uncomfortable because humans cling to the familiar, even when it harms us. We grow attached to people, routines, and ways of thinking. So when Allah starts removing them, it can feel like we're being broken. But in truth, you are not being destroyed. You are being rebuilt by the one who created you. This isn't chaos. It isn't bad luck. It's divine redirection. And when you see it through that lens, you stop resisting the changes and begin embracing them as signs that Allah is working in your life, even when you don't yet understand how. When Allah removes something, it's never random. It's always part of a plan to replace the old you with someone stronger, purer, and closer to Him. We expect blessings to look like ease, comfort, or clarity. But true growth often happens in discomfort. Sometimes Allah answers your dua by unsettling your life, forcing you to pause, reflect, and step onto a new path. It can start subtly. A friend stops responding, conversations lose their joy, sinful desires lose their pull. You feel a quiet discomfort with who you were, yet uncertainty about who you're becoming. This is the work of Allah. Sometimes He gives by taking away. What is removed may have been a barrier to your growth, a distraction, or even a danger to your faith. Allah knows the unseen. He knows the hearts. He knows the consequences of attachments we refuse to let go. And when we trust Him fully, we see that even painful separations are wrapped in mercy. Allah's love is not always in what He gives, but in what He saves you from. That relationship you prayed to keep, perhaps it was pulling you away from your identity and Akira. That habit that gave momentary pleasure but left your heart empty? Maybe it was darkening your soul. That environment you loved but now feels wrong? Perhaps it no longer reflects who you are becoming. Allah removes not to hurt you, but to heal you. Not to abandon you, but to bring you back to Him, purer, more sincere, more elevated. So when life starts to strip away certain things, don't panic. Ask yourself, could this be the answer to a dua I made long ago? Sometimes, the discomfort you feel is not destruction. It's transformation. You are shedding an old skin, leaving behind a version of yourself that no longer serves the mission Allah has for you. This is to make space in your heart for something better. That better might be tranquility in your worship, sincerity in your intentions, or courage to choose faith over temptation. And as you release the old you, perhaps the one who lived to please people or relied only on personal plans, you'll notice something beautiful. Life feels lighter, your mind clearer, your heart calmer. Not because life is suddenly perfect, but because you are no longer carrying what wasn't meant for you. You've stopped fighting Allah's plan. You've learned to submit not only in prayer, but in perspective. That is where true peace lives. One day, perhaps in a quiet walk after far, in sujud with tears in your eyes, or in a still moment alone, you'll realize, I needed this change. I prayed for a new life without knowing I'd have to release the old one first. And once you understand this, emptiness becomes space, silence becomes peace, separation becomes clarity. You are not who you were, and that is something to be grateful for. When you truly internalize that the change you feared was a gift, you move from resistance to gratitude. Gratitude not just for blessings, but for the friendships that ended, the doors that closed, the tests that broke you, and the moments you had to face your raw, unfiltered self. Without those moments, you would have remained comfortable but spiritually stagnant. Allah loved you too much to leave you there, so He woke you up. He shook your world enough to make you pause, think, and return to Him. That is not punishment. That is protection. That is divine love. Allah is not replacing the old you just for change's sake. He is refining you, reclaiming you, returning you to the person He always intended. Grounded, sincere, patient, grateful, guided. A person defined not by loss or failure, but by how often they turned back to Allah when things were hard. So don't give up now. Don't measure your progress by the distance left, but by how far you've come. If you've started praying again, thank Allah. If you've left sins you once loved, thank Allah. If your tears have become du'as instead of complaints, thank Allah. This is not weakness, it's strength. It's growth. And it is one of the most beautiful journeys you will ever take. Be gentle with yourself. Your past is a chapter, not your whole story. As long as you are breathing, there is time to return, time to build, time to become who you were meant to be. The journey back to Allah does not start with perfection. It starts with sincerity. One honest moment of turning back to your Creator is more beloved to Him than a lifetime of outward deeds without the heart. Allah doesn't expect perfection. He expects you to keep coming back, no matter how many times you fall. And that's the beauty of our deen. You are never too far gone for His mercy, never too broken for His repair, never too lost for His guidance. The very fact that you feel pulled toward change is proof. Allah is still calling you. He hasn't let you go. Even if you feel unworthy, even if you feel late, even if you're still struggling, your return is welcomed. Your journey, no matter how imperfect, matters to Him. He knows your weaknesses, your battles, your grief, and the reasons behind your mistakes. And still, He calls you again and again, not with harshness, but with love. The path of transformation is not straight. There are setbacks, silent battles, and private victories only Allah sees. But every moment you rise after falling is precious to Him. So keep going, even if it's hard, even if others don't understand. He's not replacing the old you to punish you, but to honor the du'as you made in your lowest, loneliest moments. Sometimes he removes people, closes doors, or changes your path. First, it feels like loss. Later, you realize what he took away was never meant to stay, and what he gave instead was what your soul truly longed for. That is Allah's mercy. Sometimes giving you what you want, sometimes something better, and sometimes something eternal: clarity, taqwa, peace, discipline, forgiveness. These are not small things. They are signs that Allah is nurturing your soul in ways the world can't measure. And yes, growth requires letting go. Sometimes from parts of your past, sometimes from people who no longer understand you. But remember, the goal was never to be understood by everyone. It was always to be known, deeply known, by the one who created you. My dear brothers and sisters, remember this: the goal of our lives is not to be understood or praised by people, but to be understood and accepted by Allah. If He is pleased with you, then even if the entire world turns away, you have succeeded. But if He is displeased, even the loudest applause means nothing. So when parts of your life begin to fall away and the world feels unfamiliar, do not panic. You are not falling apart. You are being reshaped, realigned, and returned to your true purpose. The old version of you may have been driven by fear, attachment, or the need for approval. The new version that Allah is creating is built on trust, obedience, and love for the one who never abandons you. This is not the end, it is a beginning, and you are not walking this path alone. Even if no one else understands your transformation, Allah does. Every step, every tear, every setback, every return, He is with you. The fact that you are still seeking Him, still trying despite your struggles, is proof that He has not given up on you. Allah is never in a rush. He doesn't demand instant perfection. That pressure comes from people, not from your Creator. He gives you time, space, and gentle reminders. He waits for your heart to reach the point where it no longer wishes to return to what He saved you from. So be grateful for progress, even if it feels small. Maybe you're still battling a habit. Maybe your salah isn't perfect. Maybe your heart wavers. But if you are trying sincerely, that is enough for today. Keep returning to Him, even if it feels like starting over every day, because Allah loves consistency, even if it's small. As your inner world shifts, you will notice that the version of you who once chased people's approval is fading. In its place will be someone calmer, more grounded, seeking only Allah's pleasure. This change is not always loud or visible, but it is real, and it brings a peace far greater than anything you gave up. And here's something important: not everyone is chosen for this kind of transformation. If Allah has removed what is harmful, awakened your heart, and unsettled your old life, it is because He has chosen you from among billions. He saw sincerity in your heart, perhaps more than you see in yourself, and called you back. That calling may come through heartbreak, loss, or deep discomfort, but its purpose is always the same: to bring you closer, to remove what dims your light, to remind you that you were made for more. You were created to walk in purpose, in peace, in the company of Allah. Change will still carry moments of longing for the past. That is part of being human. But now you choose something greater: obedience over ease, discipline over distraction, faith over image. And even if no one else sees your effort, know this: Allah sees every moment, every struggle, every silent victory. He sees the tears you never shared with anyone. He hears the silent du'as whispered in moments of confusion. He records the sins you quietly turned away from when no one else would have known. Every moment counts. Every effort matters. So never underestimate what Allah is doing with your life just because you can't see the full picture yet. A house under construction might look messy to an outsider, but the architect knows exactly what he's building. And Allah, the best of planners, is building you not only for this world, but for something far more beautiful in the next. On the Day of Judgment, when the veil is lifted and you finally see the wisdom behind every loss, delay, and painful moment, you will say, Alhamdulillah. You will thank Him for not giving you what you once begged for. You will praise Him for replacing the old you with someone stronger, purer, and ready to meet Him with a heart rebuilt by His mercy. When Allah replaces the old version of you, He's not just changing your habits or shifting your circumstances. He's elevating your soul. And with elevation comes responsibility. You're not growing only for yourself, but for your family, your community, and the people whose lives you will touch. The new you, the one he is forming, will carry light in your presence, healing in your words, and weight in your silence. Your heart, softened by loss and strengthened by faith, will become a means of goodness for others. This is how Allah prepares his servants, by stripping away arrogance, ego, and false attachments, not to humiliate, but to make room for sincerity, wisdom, and quiet strength. You may not see it now, but the lessons you're learning in these silent battles are preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. One day, you will look back not with sadness, but with gratitude, knowing that this version of you could only be born through a journey that made you lean on Allah like never before. So embrace the process. Don't rush what Allah is doing in you. Healing takes time. Realignment takes time. Letting go of emotional, spiritual, and social dependencies takes time. But with every small act of obedience, every sincere dua, every step away from what does not serve your soul, you are showing Allah, "Ya Allah, I trust your plan. Even when I don't understand it, I accept your will, even when it's hard. And know this, anything you give up for his sake, he will replace with something purer, something better, something that draws you closer to him." That is his promise. And Allah never breaks his promise. When Allah puts you through transformation, it's because he is preparing you for something sacred. He's molding you to carry responsibility with humility, to spread his message through your character, and to reflect his mercy through your presence. There are things ahead that require a stronger, more patient, more spiritually alert version of you. And that version cannot emerge without shedding the old patterns, attachments, and mindsets. That peeling away hurts, but what remains is something real, sincere, and deeply rooted in tawakkul, trust in him. This is why you shouldn't fear the process. Even when it gets lonely, even when people no longer understand who you're becoming, even when your surroundings no longer fit you, this isolation is not abandonment. It's incubation. Allah is placing you in a spiritual space where he becomes your primary companion, where your heart finds comfort without distractions, where your soul begins to crave Quran instead of noise. And once you've been refined by Allah himself, nothing in this world can shake you the same way again, because you've tasted what it means to be broken, yet held by him alone. That is not weakness. That is strength. The kind that doesn't seek applause, the kind that doesn't crumble under criticism, the kind that knows, if Allah is with me, I have everything I need. So move forward without fear of what you've lost, and in gratitude for what Allah has made of you. What you've gained, conviction, sincerity, a cleansed heart, cannot be taken away by any loss, person, or hardship. The next time you wonder why things had to change, remember, this was not destruction, this was protection, this was mercy. This was Allah answering the du'as you whispered in your weakest moments. Perhaps you don't remember them, but he did. And he responded not always with what you wanted, but always with what you needed. So carry this in your heart. You are not who you used to be, and that is a mercy from Allah. You are walking a path he personally cleared for you. It may feel unfamiliar, maybe even lonely, but it is paved with wisdom, light, and purpose. You have been chosen for change, chosen to grow, chosen to draw nearer to the one who never leaves you. Every loss, every removal, every quiet shift in your heart was never random. It was Allah replacing the old you with someone better, stronger, and closer to him. Be patient with the process. Be kind to yourself as you heal, and be grateful that your Lord, in his mercy, did not leave you in a state that no longer served your soul. This transformation is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a far greater one. A story written by the one who knows you, sees you, and loves you despite everything. Return to him even if all you can offer is brokenness. Trust him when the path is unclear. Thank him not only when he gives, but also when he takes, because what he removes in wisdom, he replaces in mercy. And what he replaces is always worth more than what was lost. May Allah guide you, protect your heart, strengthen your faith, and write for you a future more beautiful than anything you have left behind. Ameen.